Virtual reality. A once gimmicky and bland medium of entertainment has now shed its cocoon like a beautiful butterfly in spring. But in this colorful world of immersive experience, there is a dark shadow that looms over its future and threatens total domination of life as we know it. But before we get to that, let's rewind a bit. In the early 90s, VR was very different than it is now. The community was much smaller and the games were made by just small developers who were more concerned with making something fun than getting any real money. AAA VR games like Half-Life Alyx or Resident Evil were nothing more than a distant dream. Then, out of nowhere, in 2014, Facebook bought Oculus, the most popular VR platform at the time, for over $2 billion. It was the first time that big money actually got involved in VR, which at the time was still a very niche form of gameplay. Since then, Facebook has dominated the VR platform with little competition. Most recently, they released the Oculus Quest 2, a standalone headset at the low price of $300. Now this may not seem low to some people, but compare it with other VR headsets. Most of them are $500 and up and require a powerful PC that could cost upwards into the thousands. The point is, the entry price of VR is very high, which is why it's a slow-growing platform. The Quest 2's price is even more of a steal when compared to its predecessor, the Quest 1. Here's a chart showing the processing power of the Quest 1, which rang to the tune of 400 American hams. That's dollars for all you non-Americans. Now compare it to the Quest 2. Even if you don't know what any of these numbers mean, it's still very clear that the Quest 2 has a far superior software to the Quest 1, and yet runs up the bill of only 300 smackaroonies. Again, American term for dollars. So the question of the day is, why? Why is the Quest 2 so cheap? This question may seem innocent and honestly unimportant enough, but the answer may unravel a grand conspiracy in the VR community that may spell the future of gaming, or even the world as we know it. From shady marketing tactics to hidden agendas in terms of service, let's dive into the great Facebook conspiracy. Let's look at the evidence. Even though the device's hardware is significantly superior, the construction of the headset itself is not free of criticism. While the Quest 1 came with a durable strap, the Quest 2 has a simple elastic strap, which many customers say is uncomfortable when worn for long periods of time. One of the features of the Quest 2 is it supports linking to a PC. This means if you want to play some more heavy-duty VR games that require a more robust processor than is capable on the headset, you can plug in the headset to your computer for a direct access to any of these games. The only caveat is that the only cable that comes with the headset is for charging and is only a meter long, not nearly long enough to plug in and play games while connected to the PC. The other criticism I've heard is that the face covering, which appears to be made of some kind of foam, is uncomfortable when worn for long periods of time. There are other minor complaints about the headset, but these three were the most common and seem to divulge some of Facebook's intentions. Now, the easy excuse for these design details is it saves money to use cheaper material for the strap and only a single charging cable. This still doesn't explain why the device is so comparatively cheap. The simple fact of the matter to me is that a small change in construction does not warrant such a large drop in price. I believe, and this is me putting on my conspiracist hat, I believe that these were intentional design elements created to market the device at $300 when its actual price is much higher. Let me explain. For every criticism I just named, the Oculus store sells an accessory that can fix it. For example, they sell a more comfortable mechanical strap to the tune of $50. They also sell an 8-meter link cable and even a plush inner lining for the Quest. The point is that Facebook knows that people who purchase the Quest 2 will likely want to buy the accessories to make the experience better after they play it for a while. So that when little Jimmy opens up his Quest 2 on Christmas Day, by next Christmas he may want the accessories, which racks up the total amount spent on the Quest from $300 to $458.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Even when viewing the construction of the Quest in this light, however, I still don't think this explains why they sold a clearly better product than the Quest 1 for a much cheaper price. Even after you buy the Quest and all the accessories you want, your spending is not done. Most games on the Quest, like video games on any platform, cost money. And though most of that money goes to the game creators, Facebook takes a cut for every transaction done through the Oculus store. I wasn't able to definitively find exactly how much they make from each transaction, but from what I can gather from anecdotal stories online, Facebook takes a 30% cut. But how much money do they make on average from each headset in use? Here's where I get into some assumptions and vague number crunching, so just bear with me. The $300 version of the Oculus Quest has 64 gigabytes of storage for games. And after averaging the price per gig of the most popular games on the platform, it came to about you're spending $11.75 per gig. This means that if you fill your entire Quest 2 library with paid games, you'll be spending around $752. Now this, I acknowledge, is a very rough estimate. Of course, once you fill up all the available space, you can still purchase games, but you just have to free up the space. And many users may never fill up the space, or maybe they will only play the free-to-play games. So if Facebook takes a 30% cut, they are pocketing $225 per headset over the course of its lifetime. So does this number justify the low price of the headset if it's true? Again, it's hard to say. It's hard to say without knowing exactly how much money Facebook spends to make each headset. Not only would you have to factor in production costs, but you need to take into account advertising, software development, the list goes on and on. Still though, I don't believe that the revenue Facebook makes off of purchased games justifies this new lower price. Undoubtedly, the biggest criticism of the Quest isn't in the software or its construction, but the login requirement. To set up and play on the Quest 2, you have to sign in with a Facebook account. And it's no secret that Facebook has been in hot water recently when it comes to collecting and potentially selling the data of its users. If you aren't familiar with the issue, let me bring you up to speed. Facebook tracks all the activities of each account on its website or affiliated social media accounts like Instagram. From your age to your gender, your likes, dislikes, and so on, Facebook creates a virtual profile made up of everything it knows about you. This profile is very interesting to advertisers who can use this data to advertise specific products that are compatible with the data Facebook has on you. Many have speculated that the reason for the cheap price of the headset is because Facebook is making up that money by selling the data it gathers on you from your activities on the Quest to advertisers. The data gathered on the Oculus Quest platform, according to the recently updated terms of service, include game purchases, search history, and even physical features, like there are cameras on the headset to help orient you within the virtual world, and it can track your hands, and your hand size is a data point that it creates in this virtual profile of you, which is weird and kind of invasive. Now, Facebook claims that all these data points are to create a better and more personalized experience on the platform. And while this may be true, hidden in the terms of service, it's clear that they can also use this data for advertisements. But how much is your personal data worth? That's hard to say. I've seen estimates that average Facebook user data ranges from half a cent per person to $85 per person. Regardless of how much your data is worth to Facebook, it's actually irrelevant. I just have a hard time believing that the few data points Facebook receives about you from your Oculus Quest activity justifies selling a high-quality product at a loss. That small bit of info can't be that valuable per user. In my opinion, the true reason for the price of the Quest 2 is Facebook investing in the future. Imagine if you were a businessman that could go back in time when Steve Jobs was just in the beginnings of creating Apple. What would you do? You would grab him by the collar and invest every cent into his company. You would plaster your name and your business over everything he makes, ensuring that you claim all the wealth and ownership of a business you know will change the world one day. It seems to me like Facebook sees the world of VR like this. The reason they're making the Quest 2 cheap at a loss and requiring a Facebook login is because they want more people hooked on VR and plugged into their system, so that if virtual reality becomes the next big thing, they can assure that they are in charge of it and that everyone has to go through them to get it. To me, it's clear Facebook believes that VR has a future and is worth investing in, but in reality, who knows? Though VR has gotten more popular over the years, it is still a relatively niche style of gameplay and may just fade away. as a simple fad, much like the Google Glass or fidget spinner. But if Facebook is right, then they are ensuring they have a stranglehold on a new piece of technology which could change the world.